All right, welcome to the Last Visit First podcast. New episode today. I'm really excited to have the co-creator of this. She was the one lady that made me want to create this podcast. We had dinner one night and she's like, "Tom, you need to create a podcast. You need to do it." And so after that, we went home and talked to Jennifer and here it is. So I've talked about her multiple times, but welcome to the show, Kristen Yntema, President and CEO of AuthoraCare Collective. They're a major nonprofit serious illness provider serving communities all across North Carolina. Kristen is a mission-anchored, outcomes-oriented executive who has led many complex organizations through transformational growth, strategic initiatives, culture renewal, and prior senior leadership roles. She was in advanced home care and Cone Health. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I'm anxious to know how you came up with the name that you chose.
I use my friends at, I gave it kind of all the criteria of what we wanted to really talk about:
Yeah,
home care, hospice, home health, palliative care. And I pumped it into ChatGPT, believe it or not, and it gave me a whole list of names. And Last Visit First was one of them. And that all comes back to the relationship I had with my grandma, Nana, who we all talk about, Nana. And I wanted
mhm,
every visit that she has to be like just like the last visit to be just like the first visit that we took care of her. And
I
so to
love
make
it.
sure we're covering all that. And so that's where it all started from.
That's great. Well, I'm pleased to be here. It's great.
Thank you for coming. It's a real honor. And we spent some time at Home Care 100 chatting and me,
Yeah.
you, and Devin. I got a whole bunch of questions for you. Just let it
Yeah.
flow. How did you
Okay.
get to be the CEO of AuthoraCare? And give us the story. It's so interesting. I want to hear the story.
Well, I have to say I'm really lucky. My mom was a nurse growing up, and at 15, I really wanted a job and really wanted to be a lifeguard. My mom didn't think that was such a good idea, so said, "Why don't you come work at our hospital?" And so at 15, I started as a unit secretary there on one of the units and then cross trained as a nursing assistant. And I did that for 7 years and fell in love with healthcare. Came home every break during college, all the way up to grad school, knowing that I just loved to be connected to the patient. And I went to college as a chemistry major and figured out pretty quickly if that was my major, I was going to flunk out. That was not where my expertise was. And found out there was something called hospital administration. And so after college, worked on the Hill for a year thinking I wanted to do policy work, but went into grad school for Master's in Health Services Administration. And that's how it all started. So I feel really lucky at 15, I kind of started knowing what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in healthcare. And even though I couldn't be at the bedside, I wanted in on the action. I think there's nothing more honorable than helping people when they're at a vulnerable place. And so just fell in love with healthcare.
Yeah. And then walk me through. So you graduated college, went to policy, then you started working in healthcare and
Yeah.
administration. And then how'd you get to AuthoraCare?
Well, it was at the health system, Cone Health. You talked about that. Was there for 10 years, then went on to advanced home care, and for 9 years, had the opportunity to work as vice president of innovation and regional development. And so I had the opportunity to work with 13 other owner hospitals and really see what kinds of things they needed as it related to what happens to the patient after they discharge. What is the need that they have strategically? So from home health, durable medical equipment, infusion services, and really that opportunity to see how different organizations were trying to meet the needs of their community. And then had the opportunity, got the call to say, "Hey, why don't you come look at what was Hospice of Greensboro as their CEO?" And the rest is kind of history. So I've now been here. This year will be 9 years that I've been in this role, but obviously the role has changed over the last 9 years for sure.
And tell us about the business today. How big are you? ADC? What kind of patients do you take care
Yeah.
of? Those kind of things.
So we are about 950 census and hospice. Collectively, all of our patients, we're probably around 2,700 patients. We have hospice, palliative care, home-based primary care, home health. We have a robust Kids Path program, which is for children in needs for lots of different things. We have a robust counseling and education, a couple of inpatient units. We cover about 13 counties in the center of the state. So we really have moved from a legacy hospice into being a serious illness organization. It was clear we could see the writing on the wall. We knew what was coming. And we said about 5 years ago, we want to move from being a hospice alone organization to becoming a serious illness organization, really to help support the patient, not just at last 6 months. We wanted to have a longer relationship with patients in that. And so we've been moving towards really creating that for our region ever since.
That's amazing. And you guys just went through a rebrand to uh, AuthoraCare Collective. So explain that. And I was there right after you did it, and that's why I remember hearing it. I think it was a great story. So I want to hear that. I want this audience to hear it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's probably once in a lifetime professional opportunity that I'll never get again. And it was really fun where two organizations merged. We didn't want to be hospice of, 16 counties. We said, really, what are we trying to do? What is our architecture, our brand architecture for what we're trying to be? And we really reached out to our community to say, what is it that you want from us, from an organization like ours? And we didn't want to just be a bigger version. And we kept hearing empowerment, empower us. Don't tell us what is going to happen to us. Let us have the option to decide. And so author of your story is really where that came to be. So it was an opportunity to really marry merging an organization with who we were going to be and what the brand was going to stand for. And so that's how we came up with the name.
Cool. And I remember you
Yeah.
telling me the story about how you engaged every level in the organization, your
Yeah.
community, your referral sources, the
Yeah.
patients, everybody, and kind of gathered all that information to come up with the name. It's cool.
Yeah. And the culture is extremely important to us. So, I think culture trumps strategy all day long. I really began to really respect culture when I was at Advanced Home Care and had the opportunity to go to lots of different places, whether it be Northern Virginia to Eastern North Carolina down to Georgia. No culture is wrong, they're just different. And so, how do you work within a culture? What is that important? And so, when we came together with two organizations, even though we called ourselves sister organizations, we kind of lived side by side, we didn't compete with each other. That doesn't mean you don't have two different cultures. So, how do you really honor those cultures, honor the legacy of what those two organizations are, but really be thoughtful about how you create the culture that's going to help support your strategy for the future? And so, along with rebranding, we actually started our culture work with an organization called Insignium to really think about what was a culture we were going to build and be intentional about 6 months before we even came together as an organization, and continued that work 6 months after we had merged. And it made it so that day of the official merger was a non-issue day. And that's because we had done the work and we really became one organization through that culture.
All right. Fun question, but you have two boards. You're both not for profit. You had to put those together. How did you manage that? I know Jonathan Fleece is doing that. Everybody's tried to do that. It's harder than you
Yeah.
think. So merging two boards,
Yeah.
two not for profits together is hard.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the former CEO of the other not-for-profit hospice was really before his time. He really set the stage with his board, which made a huge difference. Together, he and I worked with identifying 4 different board members from each board to come together to have a working board to make some decisions, some key decisions. We laid out a plan for over 6 months. What were the key decisions? When do we need to make them by? And I think setting the stage for the work and also the expectation and the intent. And so the intent was there, and it was clear that we both had the same commitment to what we were trying to build. So I say it now like it was easy, but it definitely wasn't. It was a lot of work. But I think if you have willing partners who really are working in service to something bigger than just, two organizations, oh gosh, we're going to lose something. It is, what are you going to gain out of this? And what is it you can really make that really happens in a magical way for your community?
Well, that's really cool. I know it's hard. I mean, it's always hard. You got donors, you got all kinds of people you got to deal with.
Yeah.
And I mean, the
Lots of
messages are
communication.
big.
Lots of
Yeah.
communication.
It's not like it's just two companies merging together.
No.
There's a lot more to it. All right. You started out this journey in hospice. So what does hospice excellent look like in your organization, just beyond compliance and satisfaction
Yeah.
surveys? Like what, as you guys are, and I know a lot of the story because I met with your chief medical officer and a bunch of people there. You guys have a
Yeah.
different story around hospice excellence. Define that. And what is that really?
I think the family member at 2 a.m. who feels confident about what's going to happen, that we're anticipating things and making sure that they know and are trained and have education and know who to call, have expectations that are clear because they've had the training and understanding, but feeling confident and understanding that what's happening. Again, going back to that AuthoraCare, being the author of your story, making sure that they know we're supporting the patient, but we're also supporting the caregivers in this journey. So, quality and all the outcomes are obviously incredibly important, but you got to start with the patient at the center of what it is you're doing here and what the intent is.
And then how do you train that? How do you get everybody in the organization to follow that same, model that you created?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with our name, it starts with the mission of why we're here. It begins with the values. We highlight those values every month at a team meeting. We have something called Caring Hearts where people recognize people for being who we're supposed to be. We have over 100 Caring Hearts every month that come out from people nominating others. We celebrate those. I think what you celebrate really obviously is what gets done and what gets reinforced. And it is how we train, how we do new employee orientation, how we have good orientation set up for people of what the expectations are. I'm not saying we're perfect all the time, but we certainly set it up of being really clear about that expectation of why we're here and why we get to do this work because it's sacred work.
You know, one of the things that and Scott Beard and I were out in your office, I don't know, it's been a couple of years ago or maybe a year and a half ago, when we were driving back to the airport, one of the things is Scott actually mentioned, he's like, that team just feels like they work well together and they all listen to each
Oh,
other. They respect each other.
that's
And
awesome.
he's like, and we had it at dinner and we had a great dinner and, just a real casual dinner, but that team feels like it really gels and works together.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you that, but Scott was like really impressed by that.
No,
He's like, that team
that's
really
really
works
cool. I
together.
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's you and Devin and the rest of the gang that was there. But
Yeah.
I mean, there was like 18 people in the room when we came in and we're sitting down talking about data strategies, and everybody had an opportunity to talk. And you listened really well to what they had to say. You acted like you really cared about what they had to say, which is really important, and we don't see that everywhere.
I did. I
Been in a
did
lot of
care. I
boardrooms.
wasn't asking.
You did care. You operate some inpatient hospices, and that's
Yep.
unique because there are not that many inpatient hospices around the country, and a lot of them have been closing. Tell
Yep.
me more about those, and what do you see in those? Most people would say
Yeah.
they're not very profitable, but they're very important to the mission. So,
Yeah,
tell us
100%.
about those.
Underscore that. Yeah, they're here for the community. Our community knows them. They're a home-like setting. It's an opportunity to not have to go to the hospital when you may need that level of care or that symptom management that otherwise they may be hospitalized for. It's an opportunity to really decrease ED utilization and hospitalization because we have that option. And, one of the things I'm proud of that we put in place is we work directly with our EMS to have a relationship where if they know that the patient is a hospice patient, they call 911, which we don't want them to do, but let's say they do, they call 911, they will call us and help support the patient until our nurse can get there and or make a direct admit to our inpatient unit as one example of how we use them. So it's also for respite care for caregivers to have that opportunity to have respite. So we use it for respite care. So it is a big part of who we are and what we do to support the mission of our organization.
Hey, explain respite care. Most people don't understand. I know what it is, but I think the listeners out there, it's the probably most underutilized
Yeah.
hospice benefit. But explain that one, if you will.
Yeah, it really is an opportunity for the caregiver to have a few days to um, know that their loved one is taken care of. They can go on a trip, or they can collect themselves and have time. It is an opportunity that you'd have during the benefit to be able to have that really as an opportunity to get rejuvenated or just have a break because it's tough to be the caregiver. And so it is a great part of the hospice benefit. And we're glad that we have that as part of our inpatient units. We really make sure that our social workers and our chaplains know about that to help recommend that when they see that the caregiver really can use a break and have a respite for themselves.
That's really cool. That's totally awesome. And the name of that thing is the Beacon Place, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, we have two. We have Beacon Place, which is in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we have the hospice home, which is in Burlington. So both kind of center of the state. They're just some miles, 15, 20 miles apart.
That's really cool. And if you ever have been to one of these, they're just amazing facilities.
Yeah, they are
They have all
amazing.
the
They
different
really
things.
are.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's awesome. If you're gonna be in a hospice house, you want to be in one of these that are amazing places to stay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, let's jump in. So as you evolved around, so you're not just doing hospice care now, you're doing home health, you're doing all these other things.
Uh-huh.
Explain how that transition happened. So like the hospital at home is a really interesting one. The pediatric program's an interesting one. How did these evolve, and did you gain them through the merger, or did you guys create these?
It was a mix. Some of them we stood up on our own, said, for instance, home health. We said, we've done some of that, but let's stand up adult home health and let's go ahead and do that as part of creating the collective and what we call the ecosystem around our patients. We bought a house calls practice. We knew that that would be create a possibility for the future for us, and so knew that that was part of what we wanted to do. We saw the guide as an opportunity. That was a great program, and we saw that as a guide that really fit in our niche and what we think we were really good at. And so many other programs, some of them we did with lots of thought and a long runway, and some of them was just an opportunity, and we said we got to take it right now. And so we knew that we wanted to build out the collective, that vertical strategy for ourselves. And so these have been the pieces that we've been thinking about and putting in place as we go along, or as opportunity presents itself. So that's so we may see an opportunity and say, "Gosh, are we ready for this?" And sometimes it's, you may not be ready in the sense of your team's thinking, "Oh gosh, there's one more thing," but it's time. You got to take it while you can as an opportunity.
And so that makes you the better referral source manager, right? So if I'm a doctor and I want to refer my patient, I
Yeah,
send them to the collective. You're going to find the right benefit or the right care
yeah.
setting for that patient, and hopefully transition them instead of sending them out, sending them back, bringing them out, bringing them out. I mean, there's so many
Right.
hospices
I
that
mean,
just take the last day.
yeah, we look at ourselves as building an ecosystem around the patient. So many, and I know I've heard you talk about this on your podcast. Most people don't want to go to the hospital; they want to stay at home. So, how do we build the ecosystem around them? What they might need? You may start with a chronic condition that you can live with and you can get around, and you're have good ambulation, and then something happens, and you may not be able to get to a physician practice, or may need home health for a little bit, and then you may progress to the next thing. So how do we make sure that we're systematically providing the support for that patient? They're not feeling like a different program's coming in and out every time, but we're there supporting them as the disease progresses. And we're not just having a relationship at 6 months or less, like with hospice, but now we're having a long term relationship with the patient and family as they progress along and really have that support that they need in their home.
It's cool. And then did the caregivers overlap in different programs in some of them, or are they all different
They
caregivers?
can. We have patients that are in multiple programs at the same time, and that's what it's there for because, otherwise you're piecemealing things together. So hopefully, we are trying to build that longitudinal care. So as people progress, what they might need multiple things at the same time, but the goal would be they're in the right place at the right time with the right setting of care.
And I'm sure being a technologist that I am, technology gets in the way of that a lot. So
Yes.
balancing all the different, EMRs for doctors, making them happy,
Yeah.
palliative care, home health, SNF, all the different programs. So how have you addressed that? And I know you got Devin, and Devin's like a technology geek like I am. So thank
Yes, he
goodness.
is. He is, thank goodness. Great team member for sure, my partner. I think
Yeah,
that is some of our work, as you know, some of our work really is how do we build the technology that's going to support what it is we're trying to do because we know the data, how to use the data to predict, how to use the data to feed the clinicians with what they need to support, how do you use the data to anticipate. All those things are critical to the success of what you're trying to build. So, that is part of our work this year is to build that technology platform and make sure that it's married to what it is we're trying to accomplish. And then once you get that, then what can you overlay on top of that to make you even better, to make you even more efficient and effective, not taking away the human connection because that is never cannot be replaced by technology, but how do you enhance the ability for that clinician to be fully present and also be thoughtful about what you can provide the patient when?
sure. And thoughts around AI? I know it's changing every day. And
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
guys figuring out a strategy there and thinking about different AI strategies?
Yeah, it's definitely on our work plan. What's interesting is I have talked to AI folks who've created AI 2 years ago and they're not here anymore. So you kind of think to yourself, I've got to be thoughtful about what AI partner I'm going to bring into the fold. And then also, what am I trying to solve for? Is it just this nice shiny thing that says it can solve this issue? And if it's just a small issue versus a systematic approach, so it is definitely in our thought process, but I think we need to be thoughtful about what we're bringing into how we operate because there's a lot of them that you talk to that say they can solve a lot of things, but sometimes we have to wait to see so it's not something I'm not afraid of it. I think it's helpful and I think there's a place for it, but making sure we've done our due diligence and making sure where the place is.
Yeah, not and I don't want to say nobody should be first, but you don't want to be first in all these. And it's amazing.
Right.
I don't know how many
Yeah.
companies call me and wanted me to invest and help them, get to the market and all that. And And it's amazing how rapid it changed. I mean, last night, OpenAI and OpenClaw came together, which is an OpenClaw nobody even heard of, 30
Yeah.
days ago, and now the
Right.
guy's worth $1 billion, and he just sold this company to OpenAI. It just blows my mind.
Well, it's that
It's
it's that
going
bell curve of change, right? And some of it you don't want to be at the front. You may want to be close to
right,
the front, not lagging behind,
right.
but not sure we want to be at the front of the line on that one.
Yeah, the one thing I think we got to change in this industry this year is we have to figure out how to make nursing documentation faster, better, and quicker and
Yes,
easier. And I'm
100%.
spending most of my time on that right now. Is just
Yeah,
where can we embed AI, ambient listening, whatever, to make nursing documentation easier, faster, better?
yes,
And if you sit down with
100%.
people that are in this business, they call them pajama charting, which is like, I'm like, what is that? And they're like, I sit in my
Yep,
pajamas and do charting, and I hate it, and I want to make it go
yeah,
away. And we
yeah,
have to do that. When you're in the hospital, if your nurse didn't finish her documentation in the hospital, she didn't leave. And for some
right,
reason in home health and hospice, you get to take it home and work on it all night long. It's crazy.
right.
All right.
Yep.
I'm really interested in the kids path. Jennifer and I are investors in multiple organizations
Mm,
that support children and pediatrics and cancer research and
yeah.
all kinds of stuff for kids. If we do anything we have a foundation called Be Kind to All, and if we do anything in Be Kind to All, it's either supports the military or supports kids. And so those are kind of two of our missions. And tell me about this kids path program. What is it and how does it work?
Well, we're really fortunate. It's something that was started over 25 years ago, really for pediatric hospice. There wasn't, we had health systems it took a long time. It was a big travel endeavor for our parents that lived in our community that would have to go to hospitals to get care. And really, you need a pediatric hospice. It's different. It's not many adults, as we all know. It is different. So it's been around for 25 years, something we're really proud of. And we've been expanding on the Kids Path program. We know grief and trauma is different for kids. We know that we have a Medicaid waiver program called CAP-C, CAP-DA, and it's really for those kids that otherwise would be institutionalized. So, how do we support the family so that they can remain at home with their family and be loved on by their family, but also get the care around them that they need? So, it is something that we've expanded and made sure that we have support because it's a difficult time, and some people say, "Oh, that's so sad," and it is sad. It would be worse if we didn't have it, and have it for those
Terrible.
families that really need it. Yeah,
Can't imagine going through that. I mean, we have some friends that have gone through that and, for years and years, spent years in the hospital, literally
yeah,
years in the hospital. And it's
yes,
a complete disruption to the family, their work, everything. And you want to be there
that's
for your
right.
child. It's just so bad. It's an amazing program and you should be very proud of that one. You hope you never have a patient in it, but if you do,
That's
you want
right.
them.
That's right, and our inpatient units help take care of those kids too if, the family can't take care of them at home and they don't want to be at home, those last days. They can be in one of our inpatient units, again, like a home-like setting, and we've gone so far as decorating a room to be the kids' room, to make sure that they're feeling comfortable and the family's comfortable. So it is, really something that we are proud of. So thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And there's a few of them in the industry, not many though. It's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
yeah.
All right, grief support is often treated just as a checkbox. I know you guys have all kinds
Mhm.
of grief support programs, and I met a couple of the chaplains when we were in that meeting, and they were just amazing with it. So, talk to us about what are you guys doing around that?
Yeah, it's definitely not we know it's like you said, it's not a checkbox for us. It's a robust program. We have programs where we really want to meet people where they are in their grief cycle, whether it's a one-on-one counseling, it's that they can't get out of their home, but they need counseling. So we'll do, telehealth. It is if they want to be in group settings. We've also got different kinds of grief because we know grief's different depending upon how things have happened throughout your family. So it's a robust program with counselors to really help support them through the grief. So we're proud of it. It's robust, and we have different workshops that people can do depending upon what's happening. Having Mother's Day and not having your mother. So how do you work through that as an easy example. So it is a robust program, and we're real proud of it.
That's a tough one. I don't know why Mother's Day is always one of the hardest. Christmas,
Yeah,
Mother's Day, and Thanksgiving; those are the hard
yeah,
ones for sure
yeah.
in everybody's lives.
Fabulous holidays,
Those are
and then having support during those holidays. How do you redefine what that holiday is without your loved one there? For sure.
tough. It's tough. It really is, and it's awesome what you guys do there.
HCHB is proud to sponsor the Last Visit First podcast, which explores the complex issues faced by today's home health and hospice providers.
In the spotlight today, Chief Revenue Officer Hannah Pearson, explaining how HCHB uses technology to connect people.
One of my favorite phrases is relationship architect. The focus is about the client and building the right community, the right fabric of community around our customers, making sure that from the very bottom to the very top, they had a resource and a contact to reach out to with any problems, and that we could connect them quickly and expeditiously to the right resource. That's where the client success team was born, and we touch people at every level of the organization.
All right, let's jump into some of the quality metrics and things that you're looking at. So you have all these programs. Like, I don't even defining them all is hard. How do you manage them all? Like, what kind of metrics are you looking at? How do you manage all these different programs? Do you have people that are running all of them, or are you running them all, or what?
No, I'm not running them all. I have amazing team, amazing leaders who are really dedicated to it. We have great accountability. I think we can be great for our community and serve our community, but we also have to have robust business acumen and how to run these programs and making sure we're doing all the right things to be good financial stewards. And one of the things, we have a organization-wide scorecard that we share with our entire team every month. That scorecard's balanced, whether it's from quality metrics or it is about any sort of retention metrics, financial metrics, census metrics. And one of the ones that we added this year, Tom, that I'm proud of is really that movement. It reflects the movement from a hospice only organization into a serious illness organization. It's called Days in the Community. So those patients that we're at risk for, how often are we able to keep them in their home and not have hospitalizations, not have long-term care facility stays and care if we can help it, not have those ED utilizations? So really those days in the community, and everybody shares in that goal because we all play a part across the organization. And so, whatever you measure, people pay attention to, right? So you have to be thoughtful about what you're measuring, what you're producing, what you're talking about. That one's I'm proud of because it gives me the opportunity and the platform to talk about why is that one important? Why is it that we're moving to that? And so I think that's a really good way to help also shift folks' thought about how we do our work. It's how do we create this seamless care infrastructure? How do we make sure we have all the right people in the right places? Why do we have certain support functions helping take care of everybody, all of our patients? And so it makes that connection really clear. So it's something that we measure. We have weekly measurement calls. We have all sorts of things that we measure on a very routine basis. But I think that's an important one because then that's what we get to share. And if we do well as an organization, then people get excited about that. But it also connects for people where AuthoraCare is going and how they can learn about the programs too. And I think one of the things that I'm proud of is each of our team members ask me all the time, I want to learn more. Tell me more about this program. I don't work there, but tell me more so I can go talk about it and share it with my friends, my family, the people ask me in the grocery store, how do I talk about these programs? So that's an opportunity too.
So what's the numerator and denominator there? Is it number of patients that stayed in the home?
Yeah, so right now we're in a high needs ACO, and so we really are measuring that group of patients. So those patients that we're at risk for, that we haven't gone to the ED, haven't gone to the hospital, haven't had any long-term care stays, then that's the right number that we want to get to. Now, we know that that's not always going to be perfect. To get 100% isn't necessarily the right number, but we have a goal of what we're trying to get to there and making sure that we're doing the right work.
That's awesome. And then do you spend time educating the patient around that too? Like, let us be your first primary call so we can make sure
Absolutely.
we have all these resources available to you. When you need something, you call us and we'll help you get there. And sometimes go to the ER is absolutely the right answer. Right?
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's not.
And I think it's about relationships. You're going to trust people you have a relationship with. You're willing to listen to people that you trust. So I think that's part of our work is how do we make sure that we're having the right people with the relationships they feel comfortable calling or feel comfortable reaching out when they're having a problem, or if we're giving them an answer to how they can help themselves, that they're going to listen and do those things to help themselves.
That's awesome. Who came up with that? Is it you or the team, or how'd you figure that out? Yeah, that's a cool measurement.
It was the team, and it's part of I think those things that really matter as we think about moving more care into the home. We know that not going back to the hospital, not going back to the into the emergency room unnecessarily is helpful for the health system, not just for us as who we take care of, but that should be our goal. That should be part of our work and how we get measured.
Yeah, the Secretary of Health from North Carolina should listen to this podcast and figure that out, because you're saving tons of money. You're saving tons of money, right? I mean, and not everybody's measuring that. I promise. It's one of the first times I've always heard Dates to the Community. I knew what it was, but for you to measure it inside your organization and really, track and do that, you're saving North Carolina taxpayers a lot of money too, and the government, CMS. They should listen to it. That's awesome. That's a really cool, and I didn't know it. All right, let's talk about nursing, caregiver, therapy, social worker, aides, doctors, all those. How are you addressing burnout? It's one of the challenges in this industry is it's very hard to do your documentation. We have more supply or more demand than supply. And so how do you address burnout? And then I'd love to know about that one. And then what are you doing to recruit? I mean, I know AuthoraCare has a lot of people that want to come work for you. So how do you recruit?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who listens to this, anybody who's in this industry know that, having the right people is the challenge. So part of what we're trying to look at is how do we build our own pipeline? How do we work with colleges, universities, high schools to identify people that may want to be in this space? I think we have the opportunity to share. I wouldn't have known, for instance, to go into being a nursing assistant if my mom hadn't said, "Hey, why don't you get a job at the local hospital?" It wouldn't have happened. But she's the one who introduced me. I feel really lucky. There are probably others out there that might like the same thing, but they need to know that that's an option. So how do we do that? So that's one piece. How do we make sure we're looking at documentation and making sure that we're doing the right things, and what are the systems in place so that people are not spending a lot of pajama time? That is not the goal, and we measure that and want to make sure that we're doing well in that. And then we spend a lot of time, I said culture earlier is really important. Culture is important. How do we invest in people? How do we share our appreciation? Do sessions where they can share what it is. We have something called shared governance, where we have representatives from all the different disciplines that come together once a month, and they get to help make decisions for the organization for things. We have what we call World Cafe, which are sessions that we do once a year where the entire organization has an opportunity to come and answer 3 or 4 questions of what we're trying to do strategically, so they have input there. I do coffees once a month, so I have the opportunity to spend time with individual contributors that I might not be able to have that really good quality time to have coffee and just, have a little treat from Panera and, just have some opportunity to have some questions and say, what are you hearing? What are you concerned about? What should I know about? What are rumors that you're hearing? Because I think it comes down to communication. We got to talk to folks. And if people feel heard and appreciated, that helps. We know that the pool of people, it's isn't there that we need. So we got to make sure that we're the source that people want to choose to come to versus others that we might compete with.
Yeah, I love that coffee time. I used to call it time with Tom back when I led Home Care Home Base. And I'd bring a bunch of people in the room, and I learned to shut up and ask a couple of questions and shut up and listen. And it's amazing when you get people, especially you get 3 or 4 or 5 of them, a smaller group, and they all start talking, and you can learn a lot from that. And
you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot.
We did stupid stuff with benefits one year, and they were like, you know what, we really didn't like why you did that, and please justify why you did that. And we were making decisions around benefits because we thought it was better for them, and it was terrible for them. And we made all kinds of decisions that you make that you think you're listening to everybody, but when you get down to the troop level, and I would get all different levels in the same room at the same time. I loved it. And I would make the leaders hand select people from their organization that they wanted, and not hand select. I wanted you to select the people that were frustrated or mad or angry or new or, old or, old being seniority wise. And like, let's get all of them in the same room and let's talk about it. And when you let people talk and you listen to them, and you can't fix everything that they want you to ask. I mean, we had one a couple of weeks ago, they wanted a toll tag, and I'm like, is a toll tag really that big a deal to you? I mean, it's nothing, right? I mean, I get it, but she was waiting in line for 45 minutes to get to the toll booth in, California. Like a toll tag would have been a big deal for her. And I was like, okay, let's solve that.
Yeah. And how would you know if you didn't have that conversation? Yeah.
I don't drive to California ever.
Right.
I mean, I'm in an Uber if I'm in California, but I would have never known that was a big deal, but it is a big deal. So
that's right.
Yeah, as a CEO, I think you need to listen to your staff, and at other levels. I think every chief needs to have, coffee or time and spend an hour a month. Even if you can, but an hour a month, and just listen, shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And,
well, in
use your
healthcare, I
ears, not
think
your mouth.
it's a team sport. It's not something that, I tell people in new employer orientation, I might be the CEO, but my job is no more important than yours. I have different accountabilities and responsibilities than you do, but we each have to show up and give 100% because otherwise we wouldn't need this role. So it's a team sport. And, when I was younger and working in the hospital, I'll never forget, I was maybe 16, 17 years old. I was working as a unit secretary and this physician came in and he was upset about something. I don't remember what he was upset about. And he looked at me and he screamed and he said, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?" And, at 16, I had some smart answers in my head, which I didn't share because my mom still worked at the hospital. So I thought that was best not to share those. But I
Yeah.
remember thinking to myself, if I ever am in a leadership role, I will make sure this doesn't happen to other people. Like you should feel safe to share your ideas, feel safe to want to talk back, to have that relationship. Just because he was a physician, this is not a knock on physicians, but that was what I felt like at 16. Just because he was a physician, he had the right to treat me that way. That's not true. I had an important role too. So how do we make sure we do that within the organization? Because everybody wants to do well. I don't think anybody comes to work and says, "I'm not going to show up today. I'm just not going to work."
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you do have, emotions from home and whatever, leave those at home and don't bring them to work.
That's right. Doesn't
It's
help.
hard.
Doesn't help anything.
It's hard for sure. How do you guys do on recruiting? Talk about where you're recruiting at. You're building
Yeah.
your own nurses. You're investing in schools and those kind of
Yep.
things. But if someone, I mean, I'm sure you got a whole recruiting team trying to staff all these different divisions you have.
We do, but it's not, we're not. I don't have the solid answer. I mean, it is, how do we have the folks within our organization that want to continue to go to whatever the next credential is? We want to support them and have ways to do that. We also want to do micro training because people may say, I want to be this role, but I want to be an exceptional whatever, fill in the blank. We got to train and keep training and keep offering that training so that they feel exceptional in what they do. And then how do we build our own so it is a place that, maybe even in 10th grade, you get a job and then you realize you can stay at AuthoraCare and have your, tenure at AuthoraCare doing whatever it is that you want to do, whether it be grow in your current job or continue to grow in what you're capable of doing and adding to the organization. So it is big work for us this year to kind of create some of that in a way that's even more robust than we've done so far. So it's exciting work and it's tough work, but it's necessary because I think it's going to continue to be an issue even far beyond my retirement, which is going to be a while from now. But, I think that will be part of the challenge for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it's there's a couple of podcasts ago we talked a little bit about the reciprocity of nurses being able to
Yeah.
move across different state lines,
Yeah.
and same thing with doctors and nurse practitioners and
Yeah.
PAs and all those and chaplains, social workers, everybody. I think that's a real challenge, and if I had to reach out to Oz or Secretary Kennedy, if they could figure out how to solve that. I mean, a nurse in
Yeah.
California getting certified to be a nurse is no different than you can take care of the same kind of patient you can take care in North
Right.
Carolina or South Carolina, wherever.
Yeah.
And so why the reciprocity thing is becoming a real challenge. And I think it's
Yeah.
controlling, the number of nursing licenses, those things. Dr. Danielle and I are doing a podcast on Saturday. She's a credentialing expert that I've found she's really passionate about. They've declassified nurse practitioners and PAs in school as professionals. And so by declassifying them as a professional, it changes the amount of loans that they can get. So essentially we need more nurses, we need more doctors, we need more nurse practitioners, we need more PAs, but declassifying those gives you less amount of money that you can receive from college funding or grants and those kind of things. And so
Right.
by doing that, all we're doing is hurting ourselves. And we don't have enough doctors,
Absolutely.
nurses. We don't have enough
That's
healthcare
absolutely
people in
true.
the industry. And then we have all these people retiring. So I'm real concerned about burnout.
Yep.
One, I want to make sure everybody makes it easy as possible in home health and hospice because we need to take care of people in their homes. And that's my passion, of course. But I'm
Yeah.
worried about that. I think if we keep making it harder and harder and harder to get in this business, less people are going to get into it. So we
Yeah.
have to
I
deal with it.
100% agree with you.
If you were advising a CEO integrating a hospice platform or a home health platform or a serious illness platform, what would be the first 90 days you would tell them to do? What would they do for the first 90 days?
I go back to my culture comment. I think that is incredibly important to understand the culture, understand what roadblocks may be there. How do you have shared commitments on what you're trying to accomplish? Because if you can clearly identify the shared commitments, then the rest of the decision-making process is in service to those commitments. And that is I will say that was something that, um, the CEO of the other organization we merged with did a really nice, he and I sat down and said, tell me what you're committed to. And we shared that with each other. And I said, okay, now your commitments are my commitments. And so I know that them, I'm going to hold those true. So whatever we move forward with, we know we're going to share those together. And I think that's really important because then whatever decisions you're making, whether it is what EMR you're choosing or what phone system or who's going to be in what role or how we're going to, spearhead this or how we're going to do pay or any of those things, it comes back to what is our decision process based on those commitments that we have for what we're trying to create.
In home health and hospice, growth isn't just about closing deals, it's about execution. I'm Jay Duty, Chief Operating Officer at Maxwell Tech. We work with operators and investors navigating mergers, acquisitions, and rapid growth. And we consistently see the same challenge. The deal closes, but the organization struggles to perform the way it had. That's where Maxwell Tech delivers. We specialize in post-acute M&A optimization, standardizing clinical and operational forms, redesigning care pathways, aligning workflows across disciplines, and leading enterprise implementations from planning to execution. Our consulting is focused on throughput, productivity, compliance, and technology adoption. So organizations don't just integrate on paper, they operate as one scalable platform. This is not slide deck consulting, it's operational execution. We help organizations reduce documentation variation, improve their throughput, and ensure clinical, operational, and technology strategies are all aligned, especially in today's environment of reimbursement pressure and regulatory scrutiny. If you're integrating, scaling, or preparing for your next phase of growth, we'd welcome a conversation. Visit maxwelltech.com or email sales@maxwelltech.com. From first touch to last visit, this is how organizations scale with confidence.
It's really awesome. Talk about palliative care a little bit. So your palliative care program is designed to treat patients that aren't quite ready for hospice yet, aren't homebound. Tell me about that program and how you guys are doing it and how well it's working.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like I would think everybody could say, you meet one palliative program, you meet one palliative program. And so we're constantly trying to evolve it, tweak it, to identify, trying to also bring a medical home model along with our home-based primary care practice, along with palliative care to offer something that is more complex and broader in what we're doing. And so I think it is an opportunity. I think that technology piece of identifying what those palliative care patients need when they need it, I think that's really important. And I think it's an evolution that we continue to try to make it even better than it was the day before. So it is in process always to make it better. And then how do we leverage that when we talk about going to different payers for what we do? Hospice has basically a primary payer. So we're working in new payer space for some of the things we're doing. So how do we do that in a way that makes sense to payers? So I think that's the other piece of it too.
Yeah, that's cool. And you're involved in the North Carolina Home Care and Hospice Association, right?
Yes, I serve as the
Tim
vice
Rogers.
chair. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Rogers would be
Tim-
mad at me if I didn't bring that up. So Tim, you're welcome. But tell me about that program. It's one of the better state associations. I promise. I've been
Yeah,
involved in it
we
for
are really
years.
lucky. Tim is a great president and CEO for us. I think we have 98% of organizations participate in our state association, whether it's home health or hospice. It is a very collaborative model. We want it to be successful in North Carolina, and so we have a great board that is very engaged in what it is we're trying to accomplish. And I think that platform gives us a voice when it comes to how we get policies changed or what the challenge is and the impact. So for a little bit, Medicaid was a pretty crisis state for us in our state. And I think our voice, along with other voices, really did make a difference there. But Tim and team do a really great job of representing us and bringing us in where we need to and giving us information and education. So I think we're really lucky in the state of North Carolina.
You are. And that I played golf with one of the ladies that works for Tim, and I mean, the whole time we
that's
played
great.
golf, she was just bragging about the culture during the Home Care 100 event. She was
Yeah,
bragging about the culture and all the stuff they're doing in the state, and
yeah,
it kind of makes you jealous when you're not. I'm in Arizona, and it's our Arizona State Association's not near as highlighted as that one is, but Tim's done a great
yeah.
job over the years,
He's done a great
it's
job.
cool. And I think it's really important that he's figured out how to get everybody involved and get everybody to share. That's one
Yeah,
of Tim's traits is he gets everybody to share, whether it's in South Carolina, North Carolina, and putting all this
agreed.
together and then
Yeah,
getting everybody to come in and everybody to share. And I mean, it's together, I mean, there's plenty of patients for everybody. There's plenty of money out there to go
Yeah.
get. There's plenty of work to do. So being able to figure out how to share and then push hard. There's a lot of change happening in the alliance right now as it came together with NOC and NHPCO and
Mhm.
Dr. Landers stepping out and Jennifer Sheets coming in. But I think the
Mhm.
state associations play a big part in that too. And I'm married to
100%.
Jennifer Maxwell was the CEO of the Minnesota Home Care and Hospice
That's
Association for many
right.
years. And then,
Yeah.
so she's really, really passionate about that too. So
Yeah.
appreciate what you do there and keep pushing. I think it's hard. Everybody's got to lead from the front, and I think you guys are doing it. So you're the vice chair. Does that mean next year you're the chair?
I think that's right. I know it's
Yeah.
coming at some point. I'm pretty sure it's coming here soon.
That's exciting. And then once you're the chair, you get to start over and go back to the bottom and go work your way back up,
That's
or
right.
you get to take a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really awesome. What questions do you have for me? And then we'll get into some legacy and some fun questions.
Well, I'm curious what you're hearing from, I've listened to lots of your podcasts, so it's really cool to hear what other people are saying in the industry, what they're facing, how they got into the industry. So I'm curious what patterns you may be hearing, what things are rising to the level of, wow, we need maybe do something, or should I get a group together to talk about this, or this is concerning. I'm just curious, because as you talk to people and really hear from them, I bet you're coming up with some things that maybe not something you thought of, which I think would be more interesting than the obvious, or things that you just know we need to double down on.
The one thing the theme that I keep hearing is everybody grew up in this business. When I talk to all the leaders and CEOs, a lot of them grew up. Their moms. You think about Bo Sorensen. He grew up doing scheduling work with his mom.
Yeah.
Was working in a home health and hospice agency, and they grew up in the industry. When you talk about Alex from Bristol, the CEO there, he grew up as a baseball player doing processing orders for his parents. That's how he
Yeah.
made money to pay for his college. And yourself, you grew up in this
Yeah.
industry. Your mom was influenced, and so it's amazing how many people have that. So that always blows my mind when I hear these stories of how people grew up in the industry. April
Yeah.
Anthony's story is a great one. She bought a home health agency because nobody else would buy it, and then she
Right.
created what she
Yeah.
she turned out to what
You
she
think
is.
about that.
But the other
There's got to be a connection that people have to that work. There's a calling
sure.
for that.
There's a
Mhm.
calling for sure. And it was my
Mhm.
calling, right? I was in the home health and hospice space because I came out of the military and in medicine and didn't want to practice anymore and wanted to serve as on the EMR or the electronic, be involved in it. And it was my
Mhm.
calling. So yeah, that's a theme. The other theme is, passion. Everybody has real big passion for taking care of the right people. And so as long as
Mhm.
we live by that, I hear these stories all the time, make every encounter like it was your grandma's encounter.
Yeah.
Like you're taking care of your mom or your nana or those kind of things. And so I think, that continue to go. The other themes that I've heard a lot is how do we get rid of fraud, right? There's a bunch of fraud
Mhm.
and people that are running really safe, great organizations get embarrassed by the fraud and we get
Yeah.
smeared, our names get smeared. And so
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of themes over that. A lot of people are trying to, enable that or figure out how to, for the government they want to shut the fraud off.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I use Trellis data and put it in a map, and you just look at the number of hospices on one road in Los Angeles County or
Right.
one road in Houston. It'll blow your mind. And there's not that many
Right.
patients out there. I know there's a lot of patients to care for, but
That's right.
why are there 63 hospices in a 4 square mile area? Doesn't make
Right.
sense. And so
It doesn't make sense.
if I can identify those, everybody else can identify them. And
Right.
the last one I would say is just, worried about policy. Like people are worried about, rate
Mhm.
cuts and why the government would actually cut our rates when, we're doing something that saves the government money and how do we communicate that more and how do we talk about it more? And it's pretty wild. I was talking to Bruce Greenstein, who's the Secretary of Health for the state of Louisiana, and he's
Mhm.
actually created a czar for fraud down there. And it's just one
Mm.
role of one person. It's just their job is to go eliminate fraud and make sure that everybody's doing
Wow.
the right thing. And so how do we not punish the guys and girls that are, running great home health agencies and doing all the right things and investing in all the right technologies, but make sure we're
Right.
focused on the right area. So those are common
Yeah.
themes.
And not jumping through hoops unnecessarily.
Yeah, and the other one that I continue to hear about is, how do we make sure that the benefit, like, so we were doing this whole behavioral health thing, or we could go figure out which nanas are sad, lonely, depressed, scared, those kind of things. But then the homebound status in home health, if you're sad, lonely, scared, and depressed, why am I going to lock you in your home and say you can't leave your home without a taxing effort? Like that doesn't make
Right.
sense.
Right.
I spent a lot of time talking to the DaVita guys around ESRD patients. And
Yeah.
if you have end-stage renal disease, it's really hard to get into, unless you're in one of these ACO type programs, it's really hard to get into hospice because no doctor's going to say stop dialysis, go
Right.
into hospice. but those are
Right.
the most fragile patients that we see. And
Yep.
so I think some policy changes where they're more misaligned. And I know Dr. Oz and Kennedy and those guys are all looking at these, but how do we let a ESRD patient be in hospice to treat all of its other diseases so they can experience the benefit which they need? And
Yeah.
it's real concerning because when we look in Pulse and the other tools that we have, and we see the most fragile patients usually have some kind of end-stage renal disease, or they're on dialysis, and they
Mhm.
can't be, most people aren't going to take them into hospice because one, they can't afford it, it's cost prohibitive. And then those patients are the ones that suffer and die without the benefit of hospice. It's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I love the behavioral health stuff. I've been really studying it a ton. And I worked with a company in South Carolina called Netalytics. I was on their board, and they were an EMR for office-based opioid treatment. And during COVID, this, took off on a rise because lots of opioid
Wow.
addicts get addicted again. It was such a cool company because it was changing the lives of, just normal people that just got addicted to opioids, whether they had back
Yeah.
pain or whatever. And it
Yeah.
was, it was an amazing company. And we sold it to NetSmart, and they fired me from the board. They paid me, but they fired me from the board. And but it was a great company. I loved it. I mean, it was so out of my, it was in my wheelhouse with technology and that, but out of my wheelhouse because we weren't dealing with,
Stretched you a little
elders.
bit. Yeah. Which is
Yeah, it
very
stretched me a
cool.
lot, and it was cool. But I so wanted to get that data and be able to predict algorithms and treatment
Yeah.
plans and all that. And we sold the company before I got to it, but it was a lot of fun.
But I do think, Tom, that loneliness is important. That loneliness piece is
Gosh, it's so
incredibly
much.
important. It is so impactful. I mean, we can talk about medical interventions all day long, but the loneliness, it can be crippling for people and then lead to all sorts
For
of other
sure,
things as we know. So I think you're right.
for
I think
sure.
you're definitely onto
Mo-
something.
Most spouses, when their spouse passes away, most, especially men, if the wife spouse, if the female passes away first, most men are right behind them. I mean, we're so dependent
Yep.
upon our spouses, and you can
Yep.
see it in the data. It's not just Tom Maxwell saying that because he's,
Yeah.
you can see it in the data. And so how do we address that and how do we deal with it? And
Hmm.
it's pretty easy to predict, you can with the physical assessment, and it's documented from the, the OASIS in the physical assessment. We can predict when patients are going to struggle there. But then we lock them in
Yep.
their home. We reinsert them and put them in the home and say, can't leave
Yep.
your home without taxing effort. And what's going to happen? They're going to call 911. They're
That's
lonely.
right.
They're sad. They're scared. And then, you go down the other path of, complex medication management is really hard, and you can predict those patients that are going to struggle. I see patients every day that take 25 to 30 pills in a day.
I
I mean,
know
that's
it.
a cereal bowl. You couldn't eat
Yeah.
25, 30 pills. So they're taking that
Right.
many medications, and we're not discharging medications. Everybody's just adding them on. And then we
Yep.
wonder why they go to the hospital. And then,
Right.
falls risk, we can predict that. Sepsis, we can predict that. We can easily
Yep.
see you're going to be septic. And
Yep.
sepsis is the number one thing hospitals are trying to keep from happening. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we have to be able to do more of these kind of things, but these are all challenges in our industry that we got to fix, and we got to have
Absolutely. Yeah.
clinicians to go do the work.
Right.
We got to be able to go see the patients. All
Right.
right, your legacy question. What do you want your legacy to be when the day comes when you got to move up to chairman? What do you want people to remember you by?
I think that we redefined what serious illness care could be. That we AuthoraCare has a stamp on that in a way that is helpful for not only the industry but our community and across the country. That we help to define that.
I think you already did that. That's not a legacy. You're one of the few that are doing it. So I think you're already there.
Okay, so I got to
I
come
don't
up with
know
a new one.
anybody else that. Yeah, I don't know anybody else that has all these things though. I think it's wonderful. I think what you're doing is crazy. I don't know how you manage it all and deal with it. I know people that are just hospice or just home health or just home care, and you have 12 programs that you're managing across the continuum. And I promise that the hospitals and referral sources that are working with you guys they have to be able to fill this and say, okay, we have a solution to our problems, because everybody's trying to solve the same problem. I can call Kristen and get the answer,
Mm.
or her
Yeah,
team.
and one of my thoughts is we're trying to create something that isn't on the shelf today to buy. So how do we make sure that we're creating it so that people can buy it because they need it, not just the financial piece, but because they need it. So that's part of what we're trying to fill and be bold and audacious in doing that and taking some risks in that area for sure.
Yeah, you definitely are, for sure. It blew my mind when we sat down, and Scott and I talk about it all the time, like that meeting we had. Like, we walked out of there like, holy cow, these guys are doing everything, and they're doing everything well. They're doing everything well. Like, wow. Most time we go in, okay, I'm a hospice provider, I have a cat problem, I have this, I have that. You guys are doing it all, so that's good. Favorite podcast? Do you listen to podcasts other than Last Visit First?
I
of
do.
course?
I love podcasts. I love podcasts.
What's
Of
your
course,
favorite
yours.
ones?
I like yours, Tom. Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. You created
I
it.
love I love Smart Lists. I love A Good Hang with Amy Poehler. I listen to The
Really?
Daily. Those are the big ones I listen to right now. And I love books on tape because I love to be either walking or in the car listening to something like that. So, but I love those. Sometimes I just need to be entertained. I've been drained with using my brain for other things, and sometimes I just need to be entertained for a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun. I never wanted to do a podcast. People are like, "Oh, you're Joe Rogan of home health." I'm like, "No, I don't want to be that. That's the last thing I want to be." And I really didn't want to do this, but it's been a lot of fun. I actually really
Yeah.
doing it right, hiring Cole, letting Cole do all the hard work, and he's phenomenal at it. But it's been a lot of fun. I love sitting down and
Yeah.
I love talking to people. That's all I do is talk on the phone. I mean, if somebody asks me what your job is, I'm like, I talk on the phone or talk on the computer. That's it. And 90% of the time, that's all I do is talk. So I'm
Yeah.
probably right for
Well,
for
and you create a great platform for people to share and learn. So, I mean, some of the podcasts I've learned,
Sure.
I'm like, oh, I had no idea about that person, or oh, wow, that's interesting. So it creates people behind all the things that we're doing because we're all people too, trying to do the
Yeah,
right things.
and everybody wants to hear your story, right? Everybody wants to hear,
Right.
especially a leader or at all different levels. I mean, we've had the Dr. Mayo podcast. I don't know if you listened to him and Dr. Richter. It was amazing. And Mayo's got a great story. His wife passed away. She was on hospice. He struggled to get her on hospice,
Uh,
and it's an amazing story. And it'll break your heart listening to it. But Mayo's got all his passion and drive, and he's a cool Mayo. His granddad created the Mayo Clinic, so he's
wow.
he's healthcare
Very
through
cool.
and through. It's
Yeah.
a really cool podcast, and most people don't know that story about Dr. Mayo.
Yeah.
And so being able to go deep with these people and then everybody hear it, I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you every day
Thank
for
you.
all the things you're creating. It's amazing. I follow your business. I love it. I think it's really cool what you guys are building and all the different puzzle pieces you put together, and your involvement in the state association. You're involved in the alliance. You're involved in Home Care 100. I don't know how you have any time for your family at home, but it's amazing for what you're doing. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to come hang with you a little bit, and for what you're doing. And it means a lot that you recognize the work that AuthoraCare is doing. So thanks for the opportunity to be here with you.
Yeah. And if people want to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you? Through the website?
Yeah. The website you can do via LinkedIn. But it's on the website or LinkedIn. That'd be a great way. Love to connect with people just to learn from others.
Good. We'll put your LinkedIn on the show notes here.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you.
great.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a great day,
Take care.
Kristen. Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.